somber moment. As we mark this significant milestone, activist Omoyele Showere's move to organize a protest against the detention of the leader of the indigenous peoples of Biafra, Nnamdi, around Aso Rock, the National Assembly Complex, Force Headquarters, the Court of Appeal, Eagle Square and Shehu Shagari Way has been met with reactions. The Nigerian police force over the weekend urged demonstrators to respect a court order restricting protests around key government areas. Police spokesman Benjamin Hundeyin, while acknowledging citizens' rights to peaceful assembly and expression, stated that such rights must be exercised responsibly and within the limits of the law, particularly where public safety, national security and the rights of other citizens are concerned. I mean, this statement has elicited reactions, and I'll take some posts on X. This is from Obiora, who wrote on X, "With due respect to the Inspector General of Police, the places mentioned in this release, Aso Rock Villa, the National Assembly, the Court of Appeal, Force Headquarters, Eagle Square, and Shehu Shagari Way are not private estates. They belong to the people of Nigeria. The citizens built them, funded them, and ultimately own them. Therefore, the right to peacefully assemble in those places is not a privilege to be granted by the government. It is a constitutional right that must be protected, not suppressed. If we are to speak of court orders, then we must remember that the same judiciary has discharged Mazi Nnamdi on 2 separate occasions, yet the government continues to detain him in clear defiance of those rulings. Selective obedience to court orders undermines the very foundation of justice and erodes public trust in both the government and law enforcement. Nigerians are not asking for chaos. They are asking for fairness, equity before the law, and accountable governance. A government that has nothing to hide should have no fear of its citizens expressing dissent. Protests are not a threat. They are feedback, a mirror reflecting issues that require urgent attention. It is a sign that all is not well in the land. True leadership listens, not silences. The strength of any democracy lies not in the number of armed officers deployed to suppress voices, but in the courage of those in power to hear uncomfortable truths and act justly. Another ex-user wrote, "This statement from the Nigeria Police Force is a welcome reminder that the rule of law must guide every action in our democracy. Upholding court orders is crucial for maintaining order and preventing chaos. However, it's equally important that law enforcement officers carry out their duties with professionalism, restraint, and respect for the constitutional rights of citizens to peaceful assembly and free expression. Peaceful protest remains a legitimate democratic tool for citizens to express their grievances, provided it is conducted responsibly and within the law. The police must therefore balance firmness and fairness, ensuring that while security and public order are protected, voices of the people are not unjustly silenced. Ultimately, both the citizens and the police share a common responsibility to ensure peace, justice, and respect for the Constitution to prevail in our nation." I believe that's what the ex-user is trying to say. Rufai, we've known the NSAS movement, represented a defining moment for Nigeria's youth, a generation that, leveraged social media and organized this protest that captured international attention. It is quite, glaring at this moment that the rule of law has to prevail in the land. And, I do admire activist Omoyele Showere for actually tying in this protest with the injustice as it seems. Rufai, your comment, and I'll come sit with you.
I mean, it's apt to protest when people have grievances. That's why we have a democracy. Yeah. And that's why I condemn any form of, military government.
Correct.
Because it's a democracy, people can protest. But in a democracy, when people protest and you stifle their voice and you kill them, it makes us get sad and even question if what we're practicing democracy. And you see, I'm particularly miffed by the way they've started to stifle protests. Just this morning, what happened? Omoyele went out with people to protest, and the next thing, tear gas. Daily Trust was reporting live bullets, live rounds being fired. Is this how to go? The same people that shut this country down for 2 weeks, Jonathan did not go after them like this. A lot of the people that protested Occupy Nigeria morphed into what is the APC today. We saw how they had a series of protests then. Were these not the same people that protested and put Jonathan's head and call him all sorts of names, Jonathan Haram and everything? Did they stifle their voices this way? So this high-handedness we practice in the name of democracy will not get anywhere. You remember the first anniversary after NSAS, that Femi had to stand tall with the police officer. People were tear gas. Mr. Macaroni was packed up in a bus. People must have a right to protest. What are they protesting for? Nnamdi Kanu. People have talked about a political solution all this while. Because while you talk about Nnamdi Kanu, hey, what he did is unfair, you are also seeing a lot of heinous crimes being perpetrated by bandits, and they're having peace meetings. But in this country, some people have more power over the others. Like I've repeated, they have not said everything Nnamdi Kanu did was good. I disagree with some of most parts of his advocacy. But what you cannot deny Nnamdi Kanu, are people not being marginalized in this country? Are people not being killed in this country? So as long as that is happening and you don't have a level of fairness, then you're saying people should not talk? So I keep asking, which kind of democracy do we even practice? When it suits them, they talk. When it doesn't suit them, they go the other way. So please, people should be allowed to protest. Police should be there to protect them. I remember the famous protest when Chuba Akadigbo and Buhari went to protest in Kano that they refunded them. That was where Femi Falana went to court and he got that judgment. You shouldn't stifle protest. But what do we see? We see always attempt to stifle protest. What was the need going the way of tear gas canisters and the likes? What was the need? And you see, in any democracy, there must be protest. That's why the Americans are speaking up.
Yes, speaking about
no kings.
Yes.
And we must not have kings in this country. They say they should not go around the people's house. Mm-hmm. It's the presidential villa, not the people's house. No, in other parts of the world, don't people go to the White House? Mm-hmm. And the president will even take them on tours. Right. But you can't do... You see this country...
All right. Well, speaking about that and speaking about stifling protests, you just mentioned no kings. Speaking about protests in the United States, millions of people attended protests over the weekend against President Donald Trump's administration in the second rounds of No Kings demonstrations across all 50 states. The widespread rallies aim to broadly reject what organizers describe as Trump's increasingly authoritarian agenda. The protests, which originally began in June, follow sweeping ICE raids and troop deployments in Democrat-led states. The protests come against the backdrop of a federal government shutdown, with GOP lawmakers and the White House in a standoff with Democrats. My son
This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Get loud for our democracy. Release Release. Trump has got to go. My son This is what democracy looks like. This is what democracy looks like. Get loud for our democracy.
Limbai, look at that. It is reported that about 7 million people participated in the protests. Trump and Republican leaders have labeled the protests as anti-American. However, we saw states like Idaho, a deeply conservative state, turn out dozens of protesters. The scale and organization of these demonstrations reflect deep political divisions in America, with citizens exercising their constitutional rights, even as political leaders debate the legitimacy.
We just trust our security services to ensure that protesters are kept safe, that they stick to whatever demarcated area has been allotted to them. That's most importantly. And number two, it does not need to degenerate right. This narrative of protests being hijacked is an unfortunate one, and it needs to be brought to an end. And it's up to the police to protect protesters so that it doesn't degenerate and it doesn't get hijacked by those other people who have their own agenda.
Well said, Vimbai. And you know that I believe Omoyele Sowore was saying that he hasn't been served any court order at the moment. So, we're waiting to see the developments of the story. And Arise TV will bring you guys up to speed. We'll take another story now from Anambra State, where our colleague, Arise TV anchor, producer and reporter, Somi Maduagu, was laid to rest this weekend. The funeral service was held at St. Teresa's Catholic Church in her hometown of Agulu, Anocha local government area. Somi's tragic death after an armed robbery attack at her home in Abuja last month drew extended family, friends, members of Arise News family, and well-wishers from across the country. Also present to pay his respects was former Labour Party candidate and former Anambra State Governor Peter Obi, who is also from Agulu. Let's take a look.
Young, promising, and everything. You can't question God. He is alive. It's a gift, and a loan from Him. Whenever He calls Him back, we'll give it to Him. Because all I can say is, may He grant Him eternal rest in His kingdom. Grant the family the fortitude, and all of us the fortitude to bear this very, very sad and irreplaceable loss.
So may your soul continue to rest in peace. No parent should ever bury a child. This was so heartbreaking last night when I watched her being buried. Your thoughts?
No, you're absolutely right. It's very, very sad. And our continuous condolences are with the Maduagu family. It's a difficult thing for any parent. You saw her siblings there, her sister, Divine, her brother, O.C. there. They were said to be a very close-knit family, and to see that insecurity stole this young star. And that was what Peter Obi had said in his post, having gone there. He talked about how important it was for him to do this, especially because this was a young life cut off in her prime. And again, symbolic that it's from his state as well, and where he's from. Nigeria mourns, especially Arise TV mourns, and we hope that her soul continues to rest in peace.
Amen. Amen. Somi, we will miss you. We'll forever miss you here on Arise. May your soul rest in peace. Well, let's now turn to disturbing allegations contained in a video that went viral over the weekend featuring Nollywood actress Regina Daniels, who appeared distressed while complaining about violence in her marriage to Senator representing Delta North Senatorial District, Ned Nwoko. In the footage, Regina Daniels was heard saying that she no longer feels safe in her home and is tired of the violence. Let's take a look.
Please, I will bump your eyes. Don't do that. Please, we're begging you. Please,
No. In Ned Moko's house, I am nothing. But in my house, I am free.
No, you're still as valuable. Mom, look at me. Look at me, Mom.
Baby, once again, I cannot stand the violence. It's too much. It's too much.
Don't go give water now. Don't go give water. Just relax.
I bet give her water, Zaria.
Just wait. Just
I actually want something.
Just relax.
Mom, people are not Wait.
This video went viral over the weekend. A man identified as Regina's brother, in response, posted warnings on his Instagram story, alleging Senator Ned Nwoko physically assaulted his sister and smashed her head on a wall before sending thugs. Well, in response, Senator Ned Nwoko issued a statement in a post on X denying the allegations and instead accusing his wife of substance abuse and violent behavior. In his defense, the senator posted a video along with a caption, "Regina's unprovoked carnage and rampage in my house and in my absence. Senator Nwoko further claimed in the post that Regina's current battle with drugs and alcohol abuse is the root of the problems in their marriage, stating that she must continue rehabilitation or he fears for her life and safety. And I'll read a part of his post on X. Ned Nwoko wrote, Regina is the violent one here, slapping and hitting 3 staff in the past 48 hours and destroying property, including cars and windows, for no just cause. The truth is, I have set a clear condition for her to accept rehab in Asokoro or outside Nigeria, especially Jordan, where she will not have access to drugs. And you know, this conversation has sparked a lot of reactions, sparked a debate on X. Now take Collins' tweet before I come to you, Ayo. Collins wrote, Dear Senator, Sunday greetings to you. This statement you have put out raises several potential issues from a legal standpoint of view. 1, knowledge of criminal activity. If you had credible evidence long before now that named persons, Sammy and Ann, are supplying illegal drugs to your wife, the law generally requires, or at least expects, that such information be reported to law enforcement. Failure to do this in certain circumstances constitute aiding and abetting. I'm guessing that to protect your wife, you have never reported drug supply and usage regarding your wife. 2, rehabilitation and consent. Forcing or coercing an adult into rehabilitation without legal authorization can amount to unlawful detention. I believe that the lawful route is to obtain a court-ordered medical evaluation or guardianship order, especially if there is evidence of self-harm or danger to others. I may be wrong about judicial procedures in Nigeria. I think you should have a media team deal with this in the public space, or sometimes emotions get the best of us, while privately you deal with this matter. And you know why this story has come on television? It's because the senator is a public figure. I mean, this is a marriage situation, but if we have allegations, accusations of a senator violently smashing his wife's head on the wall, I mean, this, you know, it now becomes a public debate. I mean, these are the sort of questions that, you know, are raised. And the fact is, like the ex-user wrote out there, how is it that you have all this information about your wife and you never said anything about it until she comes out to say, I am tired of this house? Then you play the card. That's a lot of the conversation out there. You either play the prostitution card or the drugs card. Your thoughts?
That's happened a lot in recent times. You're absolutely spot on. I was going to say that aside the moral and domestic part of this story, the key issues here are the fact that we're talking about a man who has the trust of his people sitting in the National Assembly as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And these are very weighty allegations, especially because we often talk about domestic violence. I know that Lagos State has a great agency for dealing with that. On a national level, we don't have individuals. I think it will just be Violence Against Persons Act. That's what we'll be talking about here when it comes to hitting. But beyond that, it's also looking at the kind of people that we elect into office. I'm not saying he's guilty, because at the end of the day, there's one side of there are two sides of the story, then there's the truth. So she's spoken, he's come out to say something, and then there's the truth which ought to be investigated. But in the event that this is true, we've had a number of allegations against people in this particular, Senate sitting of the House. I think it's important that we begin to even investigate the kind of people that we put into or elect into offices. Beyond that would be then, if the allegations of domestic violence is true, I believe that it is high time as a nation we took a serious stance against this. We're talking about, and this is domestic violence against either husband or wife. We're still on the case of the policeman who we're still investigating whether or not his wife burnt him to death. We're still talking about Miriam Sanda, who was forgiven by the president for killing her husband. So we're talking about these things that start off as hits here and there, and then turn. Let's not wait for a manslaughter case before we begin to cry.
And there wasn't a single elder or adult who could speak some type of sense into this situation, who could switch the cameras off in that moment. Yes, even if they're recording for the sake of their evidence, this isn't something that needed to be dealt with in the glaring eye of the public, because we are not going to help your situation, unfortunately, in this instance. Our commentary can only only go so far. It's only the parties that are involved that are able to take charge in this situation and that are able to take the necessary actions. Now it's been brought to light. I'm glad that Regina has taken some time away from the public space to face whatever is currently going on. I hope that her husband can also take this away